everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Valentina and I read sometimes, and today I will be walking you through the worst books that I read in 2020. All of these books, 4 in total, just made me feel either very irritated or at the end I was just like, I want my time back. So without further ado, let's dive in. The first one I'll talk about is Find Me by André Aciman. This one is the companion novel to Call Me By Your Name, a book which I loved. Call Me By Your Name was a whole moment in my life in 2018. Like that movie and that book, oh my god, I lived for both those things. So when this one came out, I was very excited. But after I read it, man, I think this was the most disappointing one out of the bunch. Like some of them were just bad books for my taste, but this one was just, aside from not really good, quite disappointing because of what I was expecting. In this novel, we mainly follow Elio's dad, who is no longer married to Elio's mother, and we follow him as he meets a girl on the train and instantly falls in love with her and how their relationship evolves. Then we have an older Elio who is now a classic pianist and gets involved with a older man. And then we have Oliver, who has a wife and a family, is a college professor back in the US, and that's where everyone is at in the book. You would think that being a companion to Call Me By Your Name that we would be following mainly Elio and Oliver and their story, but that's not true. In this case, over half of the book deals with the narrative of Elio's father, and then we get to see how the flame between Oliver and Elio is reignited and how their paths cross again. I personally feel that this book was a complete disservice to the characters that we once loved in Call Me By Your Name. Starting out by Elio's father, I thought that the relationship of Elio's parents was quite immaculate, like it was perfect in the first book, and I just am confused as to why the author would decide to break them apart and then make him fall in love with a way younger woman that he just randomly meets on a train. I didn't get that. Why change that beautiful romance for an insta-love romance? I just wasn't a really big fan of it. And the other thing that bugs me, and it's something that I feel like we should move away from in our personal lives, in books, in movies, TV shows, etc., and that is the romanticization of the first love. I think we can all acknowledge that Oliver and Elio were good to each other in that moment in their lives back in Call Me By Your Name, but I don't see the point in forcing a romance between two people that have grown up, grown apart, don't really know each other anymore, and like, what's the point just because like they were longing for their first love? Come on, people grow out of these things. I don't see why pushing that down our throats. Aside from these things that bother me, I also couldn't handle the writing. It was just too cheesy. Like it was too much, like over the top cheesy. And all in all, I just think that Call Me By Your Name wrapped up perfectly. I think that it could have stayed as a standalone, and we didn't need this. Honestly, we just didn't. And we can pretend that it just never happened because it doesn't add anything to the story, anything of value, and I think the value is in Call Me By Your Name, and it can stay that way for me. Moving on, I had to put Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney in this list. I've already done an entire video dedicated to normal people because I just had too many thoughts on that book. But I just couldn't do another video bashing Sally Rooney and her books. So, I mean, and I wasn't really bashing her in Normal People, but I would have in this one for sure. This book focuses on Frances, who is a 20-something aspiring writer and college student in Dublin, her best friend Bobby, and they're intermingling with an older married couple, Melissa and Nick. They all become friends, but Frances develops a secret relationship with Nick. And later on, a sort of open relationship, non-monogamous situation is introduced, but executed very poorly because there is zero like this what is this? Zero communication amongst any of the parties involved. I am not here, and I repeat, not here at all for books where the major problem stems from lack of communication or miscommunication. Because I think that we are past that point, you know? We can communicate, we have to communicate. If you want to have healthy relationships, you have to communicate. So why is it so hard to write characters that communicate? I don't know, but Sally Rooney apparently has a hard time doing that. All of the characters in this book were unlikable. I couldn't care for any of them. I was so bored reading about their lives and their dynamics, and I just really couldn't look past the fact that everything would have been better if they could have just communicated with each other. This book could have been so much more. It could have been the story of a 20-something aspiring writer living in Dublin that becomes friends with this intellectual older couple, and they develop a consensual, and I repeat, and let's highlight the word consensual, communicative, non-monogamous relationship, and they go to dinner parties and they like have enriching conversations with friends and like other people, and nothing much happens, but the writing keeps the story going, and this intricate relationships that they have and the interesting conversations that they are having just keep you there and keep you reading and keep you fulfilled and make the whole experience enjoyable. But the truth is that this book actually just was a waste of my time. And this year I just realized that Sally Rooney is not the author for me. And a lot of people love her, and I just happen not to be one of those. Then I have another physical book, and that is A Little Something Different by Sandy Hall. And this one looks like this. This is a love story told from the perspective of everyone except the two love interests, who are two college students that are so shy that they can't seem to get it together and strike up a conversation with each other. Some of the viewpoints include a squirrel, a bench, a bus driver, a teacher, some friends. And you can like get the idea. It's a lot of people and a lot of random stuff. So the concept itself felt quite intriguing and promising, but to me the execution was quite disappointing and very poor. You had too many random viewpoints from people, objects, and animals that weren't really connected to the characters at all. You had also a lot of strangers that were swooning over these teenagers falling in love, and like that's quite odd and unrealistic, to be honest. And I didn't feel like these random perspectives were adding to the story, but rather taking away from it. I think that if the book had focused on people that were actually close to the love interests, and created like more in-depth and more intricate observations and perspectives, then I think that would have constructed a better view of what was going on, and you could have gotten a better feel of the characters. And that's what I would have wished this book to be, but sadly it was not. Other than that, the writing was very elementary and amateur, and I really did not like that at all. Like, no. It was a no from me. Yeah. It was just very meh. And the last book that I will be talking about today is a non-fiction book, and that one is none other than The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. Oh boy. This is a book of a self-congratulatory straight white man that just regurgitates philosophies and research to tell you how great he is because he dropped everything, he stopped giving a fuck, he left everything, moved away, and started living his best life, and why you should do the same. I picked up this book because it was on so many bestseller lists and on so many lists with books that everyone is reading and that you should read too. And I was like, you know what? I guess it's about time to see what this is about. And well, it was just not for me. And I'm so glad I didn't pay for it and I rented it from my library in an audiobook form, because I would have been pissed if I had invested a single penny in this book. I'm not saying that the core message of the book is bad. I'm saying that I just didn't like the author at all. I couldn't connect with him. I was so annoyed by him, and that just made this experience dreadful. The main topics of the book are learning to prioritize the right things and defining your values and minimizing on both these things, meaning to narrow down on like the most important things, and finding the real meaning in life to be able to cope and endure the problems that you will face in it. That all sounds grand and well, but the dude bro that was explaining these things to you just made the experience of internalizing those messages very painful. All in all, a summary of this book from me would be one of those books that could have been an article. And there you have it. Those are the 4 books that wasted my time this year. The books that I wish I could unread, that just didn't bring anything to my life. And maybe this video convinces you that if you haven't read them, then honestly, you don't need to. Or maybe you actually enjoy them. I don't know. But I didn't. They just weren't for me. They wasted my time. They annoyed me so much. And I've learned, the lesson that I've learned is that I am not going to be reading any more books from any of these authors. I will definitely not be reading any more of those dude bro self-help or the most popular self-help books, because they tend to be not that good. Or I mean, for me, I tend to not enjoy them. So I will stay away from those. But yeah, let me know what your worst reads of 2020 were, and if you want a video with a more positive note, then you can check out my best books of 2020, because there I just gushed about all the books that I loved on like this file, because no. That was it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.